what is going on in our culture is what Keller called an extreme pragmatism that really is the result of a post-enlightenment culture that believes what he calls expressive individualism. In other words, what he is saying is that the majority of people today, they want to identify and to hold on to something that works. In other words, it's not kind of a vague, abstract idea that they're seeking. It's an idea to understand things that make sense and work. And so it's a pragmatism at the highest level. And so when you understand that, these defeater beliefs actually make a lot more sense. Because until they actually have confidence in something that possibly can be true, they don't believe it's worth the time to allow you to explain it. And so let's open this up. The first of the 6, what he calls dominant defeater beliefs in Western civilization, the first one is other religions. Now, what you're going to find out is that each of these, they're very practical in the minds of people, and yet they have actually pretty significant theological and philosophical augmentation to them. I don't know that every person that would ask you about this would understand all of that, but they do get this point. Now, what I've given you on each of these points is that I'm going to share with you exactly how Keller articulated the argument. And when I close, I'll give you a better explanation of it. But for this particular one, he says this: Christians seem to greatly overplay the differences between their faith and all the other ones. Though millions of people in other religions say they have encountered God, have built marvelous civilizations and cultures, and have had their lives and characters changed by their experience of faith, Christians insist that only they go to heaven, that their religion is the only one that is right and true. The exclusivity of this is breathtaking. It also appears to many to be a threat to international peace. What he's describing there is basically a person that is looking at, say, Jesus' statement in John 14 when he said, look, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but by me. That statement excludes the viability of any other religion. And this person, no matter how she or he came to this conclusion, understands that doesn't seem right. For Christians to say only those who put their faith in the gospel will go to heaven can't be right. And so this is a substantial issue, very, very widely held amongst many people, and perhaps some of you, even as Christians, might struggle with this from time to time. Now, Keller gives a brief response to each of these, and he basically said the brief response to this is that inclusivism is really covert exclusivism. And what he's basically saying by that is that when a person says that every religion has to be considered to be valid, they're actually making them all invalid. He states it this way. He said, it's common to hear people say, no one should insist that their view of God is better than all the rest. Every religion is equally valid. But what you just said could only be true if, first, there is no God at all, and second, God is an impersonal force that doesn't care what your doctrinal beliefs about him are. So as you speak, you are assuming by faith a very particular view of God, and you are pushing it as better than the rest. That is at best inconsistent and at worst hypocritical, since you are doing the very thing you are forbidding. To say all religions are equally valid is itself a very white Western view based in European Enlightenment's idea of knowledge and values. Why should that be privileged over anyone else's? You see what he's getting at is that to say that everybody's view needs to be included is essentially to say that there really isn't a valid one out there. Because if there is a valid one, then we can't say they're all equally valid. And his argument, though it's very logically sound, it is one that oftentimes people don't consider. A few years ago, we used to have a group of college kids from several local community colleges and bigger universities that had attended a study, and I remember one day we had a discussion on the meaning of love. And it actually kind of surprised me in the discussion. There was a debate that love actually could mean anything. And it was this idea of inclusivism, that love could actually mean whatever you think it should mean. In other words, it didn't have to mean anything particularly. And so it was very easy for you to say, well, I have a meaning and understanding of love, and you have a meaning and understanding of love. But I remember in the course of the discussion, we got to this point where we asked and considered the idea, can love mean hate? Because if it can mean anything, it can just as well mean hate. So if love can mean hate, if love can mean everything, it can't mean anything particularly. And see, that's what he's saying. That when you come to a point and a person is actually able to say, I can deny Christianity simply based on the fact that it asserts itself to be the only true religion. And it does. See, Keller's not denying it. He's just simply saying, if you try to include everything, it actually is a covert or underhanded form of excluding everything.